Imagine a seemingly perfect family, living in a quiet neighborhood, vanishing without a trace. No screams, no struggle, just silence. This week on Macabre Mondays, we delve into the chilling mystery of the Dupont de Ligonnès family, where the only clues are whispers, unanswered questions, and a house filled with secrets. Welcome back to Macabre Mondays, where mystery meets the macabre with your favorite deadly duo. I'm Ale.
And I'm Tom.
Your guides through the strange, the sinister, and the spooky. Today, we're diving into a case that's been chilling France to the core of over a decade. We are in France today.
Oh, croissant.
Yes, a crime so meticulously planned and a disappearance so complete that it almost sounds like a plot of a dark thriller. Tonight, we unravel the tragic story of the Dupont de Ligonnès family, a picture-perfect family on the outside whose dark secrets and tragic end still haunt people to this day. Tom, have you ever heard of this case before?
I have not.
Ooh.
And I'm eager to hear what happened in Paris.
Excited to take you out of the U.S. and bring you over to the seas of Europe.
I've only gone to Europe once, and it was with you.
Yes, it was very nice.
And I came back alive.
Yes. So this is also going to be, it's like a true crime case, but it's also very mystery, kind of like odd and eerie. Yeah. So I'm excited to be able to tell you the story. So Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès was born in Versailles on January 9th, 1961, into a once prestigious aristocratic family. Known for its lineage dating back centuries, the Dupont Ligonnès family held onto their legacy despite no longer enjoying the wealth they once had. Xavier's family, Bernard Hubert Dupont de Ligonnès, had ambitions for his son to reclaim the family fortune and respect. But unfortunately, however, his dad struggled financially and emotionally, dealing with failed business ventures and a heavy debt. So as a young man, Xavier inherited not only his father's financial struggles, but also his ambition. Known among friends and family as charismatic and strong-willed, Xavier held traditional, often conservative views on family and religion, which aligned with his upper-class background. This background would shape his life decisions, his family dynamic, and ultimately the motivations behind the events of 2011.
Oh, so this is more recent.
Yes, this is about, a little over... Oh my God, time is flying. A little over 10 years ago? I'm like, 2 years ago.
That's like 13 years ago.
I know. We don't got to talk specifics.
That's wild.
Xavier met Agnes Hodinger in early of the 1980s. Agnes came from a devoutly Catholic conservative family, and her faith was a major part of her life. They had different personalities, but came together mostly because of their religion. Agnes had a son already named Arthur, who was born in 1990. She and Xavier married not too long after and moved to Nantes with Arthur, eventually welcoming 3 new children. Thomas, who was born in 1992.
Woohoo!
I know, there you go. Shout out to Thomas. And 1994, and Benoit, who was born in 1997. And later on in life, they also had 2 Labradors in their family. Their life, from an outside perspective, appeared typical of a stable middle-class family in France. Though the family projected an image of harmony, they lived under a constant strain. Agnes had a part-time job as a school assistant, while Xavier tried his hand at several entrepreneurial ventures. Though, unfortunately, none of them took off in a significant way. Friends recall that Agnes was deeply concerned about their financial struggles, a concern she often expressed to her Catholic friends and online forums. She mentioned that her husband's mood and demeanor had changed over the years, and there were times when she felt a sense of looming dread. Xavier was a persistent but unsuccessful businessman. He dabbled in various enterprises, hoping to provide financial stability and regain the family's historical prestige. Here's a look at the specific businesses he pursued. So his first out of 4 was sales business for foreign nationals in France. So he actually founded a company called Cellref. It was a rental and restaurant exploitation company for foreign nationals in France. However, the business never achieved traction, likely due to the poor market demand and the high operational cost. So that was a failed venture. His second venture was a direct marketing. So in his later years, Xavier also attempted to make money through those type of marketing ventures. setting up a network where he recruited friends and acquaintances. But this also failed, as the market was oversaturated and very competitive. And his third venture was travel agency for pilgrimages, which I know
Okay.
when I was reading into this, I remember because I know your dad and Val like to go, which is his wife, love to go on pilgrimages. Or they've only done it once, maybe, or they've done it more than that.
I think they've done 2. I think they did one in Italy, and then they did one more or less across. Yeah, it was like across Europe.
So essentially he wanted to create a travel agency for that. Since obviously he was a religious man, Xavier had also attempted to establish a niche travel agency, just kind of focusing on all those Catholic pilgrimages, which reflected his devotion to faith. But again, the lack of clients and high overheads kept this venture from succeeding. His last venture was an online networking site for sales professionals. So attempting to leverage the internet's growth potential, he found an online network aiming to connect sales professionals across different industries. Despite his hopes, the website just never reached profitability, unfortunately. So he's really trying here.
He really wants to be a businessman.
Yes, he's really trying to undo what his dad was doing and kind of build his way back through that. So through these repeated failures, it really left the family in a dire financial situation, you can imagine. Debt piled up, with Xavier borrowing money from friends and family, often under the lie of a business investment or, it's an urgent family need or emergency. So by 2011, their financial distress was unimaginable, and Xavier was heavily in debt. But in March of 2011, Xavier made an unusual purchase that would later raise dark questions. So in early April 2011, things began to take an odd turn. Neighbors started noticing strange details about the family's usually lively home. The once busy townhouse grew silent. The curtains remained drawn, which was a sign you knew that they were home, because every day they would open the curtains, open the blinds, let a lot of light in. The family car was parked without being moved for days either. Soon, there were no signs of the children either, who were usually active around the neighborhood. They were teenagers, so imagine, chatter, talk, laughter, disagreements, sibling disagreements. The once vibrant Dupont de Ligonnès family had suddenly gone quiet. Xavier, however, was still seen here and there, coming and going from the house, but neighbors observed that he only moved at odd hours, often just during the night.
That's weird.
Yes. He appeared alone, solemn and hurried, leaving an unsettling feeling with those who spotted him. The children's schools noted their absence as well, as they hadn't returned after Easter break. Then came a letter addressed to their family and friends. The letter was sent on April 11th, shocked everyone who knew the family. In it, Xavier claimed that he had been recruited by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration.
So the DEA?
The DEA.
Okay.
For a top secret mission. According to Xavier, the entire family was being relocated under witness protection, and they would be unreachable for God knows how long, pretty much never.
So you're telling me failed businessman
Yes.
goes DEA. That's quite the
Well,
job.
it's working with the DEA.
Quite the job.
Seems like he might be an informant.
Very impressive.
I know. Just wait till it goes. The claim was so out of left field, clearly, that the family members struggled to believe it themselves. Yet, they held back from questioning it directly. After all, you got to think about it. This was the last word that they had heard from the family. So, what else can they do? Plus, I started thinking, what if that's a letter I got from, I don't know, like my brother or my sister? Yeah, I'd be like, what? It'd be hard to believe, but I also wouldn't know. I'm like, this is all I know.
If it was from your sister, I wouldn't believe it, because she would have called us within minutes of getting told that she was going to be an informant.
She's like, hey, listen, I can't tell you anything.
But here's everything that's going on.
I'm going to the witness protection program. No,
so NSA, FBI, DEA,
yeah,
never hire her.
Anyway, I would have had her use her code word for like if she's in trouble and I need to call the police. So I'm not going to say it because that's a secret.
Yeah, we don't need anyone listening coming after us.
Knowing our code. Okay, so adding to the oddness of all that, Xavier had canceled certain subscriptions, closed out bank accounts, and even terminated his children's school enrollments by this time. Friends and family, however, couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Agnes had always been active online, engaging with her religious community, sharing updates about her children and their activities, but now her account was silent. Emails went unanswered, friends were left in suspense, wondering if the family had truly vanished under such bizarre circumstances, or if something far darker was at play here.
I mean, to be fair, if his story's true, that would make sense because the DEA would tell you, like, hey, we're putting you in witness protection. You cannot have any connection, any contact with
they would actually,
anyone
you'd
that
have
you
to be
previously knew.
Up and go.
Which stinks, but that's how it is.
Just how it is, obviously.
So,
more neighbors began noticing that things just didn't add up. Their mail carrier for the family had started to see mail piling up by mid-April. Letters, bills, and packages stacked outside, untouched. Neighbors, too, began whispering to one another, sharing glances as they noticed how still the house remained, as if it had been abandoned. Then one night, someone reported an unusual sound from inside of the family's home. The sound of a shovel scraping against earth. It was quiet but distinct, but when morning came, everything was silent again. So on April 18th of 2011, following repeated requests from family members who couldn't shake their worries, police conducted an initial welfare check at the family's home. During the first check, they found the house seemingly abandoned, with no signs of forced entry or immediate cause for alarm. Police also noted that the interior appeared unnervingly clean and orderly. There was no immediate indication of foul play, but the absence of the family combined with the neighbors' reports of an empty, silent home was obviously very troubling.
Well, because I was just thinking of one of the movies that we just watched recently, and the guy was like oddly clean, remember?
Oh no, I think you're talking about Desperate Housewives.
Oh yeah, it was Desperate Housewives. My bad. It was Desperate Housewives. It was the
yes. Wait, what was her name again? Hold on.
I can't remember, but it ended up being the
and I love her too.
It was the doctor's mom, wasn't it?
The wife.
Oh, the wife. Yes, the wife.
Bree Hodge. Yes, and he was
like next husband, the doctor. It was his
dentist,
like ex-wife was the clean freak that like kept cleaning their house because she had like killed like 2 or 3 people.
Yes, because she was married to Rex.
If you guys can't tell, we've been binging Desperate Housewives. I know
Orson Hodge.
Orson, yes. Because
remember,
we thought he was the sus guy.
I know, and I was like,
well,
we don't know the whole story.
You did.
It was so good.
That's your true crime side coming in right there. You were like, we don't know the true story. I'm immediately like, it's him. He's guilty.
I know. Okay, so the house was clean. Despite their initial suspicions, police left the property after this check. However, family members and friends continued to pressure them, insisting that something was terribly wrong. The letter about the secret DEA mission, the lack of any recent sightings of the children, and the abrupt end to all type of communication were very out of character and warranted further investigation. The police returned for a second look on April 21st. This time, they decided to expand their search to the garden, to the backyard, especially under the terrace where the ground seemed disturbed.
We heard the shovel.
The investigation soon turned toward the garden in the back of the house, particularly a terrace area that seemed to have been recently worked on. There were inconsistencies in the ground, which prompted officers to dig beneath the surface. After digging up the terrace, police made the grisly discovery, buried under a layer of dirt, quicklime, and cement, where the remains of the entire family were found. The bodies were dismembered, making identification difficult at first, but through DNA analysis, the remains were positively identified as Xavier's wife Agnes, their 2 dogs, and their 4 children, Arthur, Thomas, Anne, and Benoit.
The dogs too?
I know, the dogs too. I know.
But no Xavier.
Which,
this is... So anyone listening, go over to our socials to check out the photos that Alejandra's going to put up. Because when you look at the townhome, and if you know anything about European townhomes and how they're laid out with the yards, if somebody heard something in one of the other homes, you could easily look out from your back window and probably see into their yard. So like, maybe, was this covered? How, like...
Especially, I mean, the terrace is covered.
Yeah.
But also seeing seeing as so far what they've been saying is that everything's been only at night.
Yeah.
And I mean, what if he was maybe doing something during the day? People are working during the day and he's in the back. I don't know. It could be something, right? But yeah, no, I agree. I feel like,
especially with how nosy, like, I'm not
like,
saying the neighbors are nosy, but at the same time, like, they were paying attention.
Yeah, they're paying attention, right? So Agnes's body was found first, and it was quickly determined that she had been killed earlier than the others. She had been shot in the head, which was likely, the cause of death. It seemed that she was likely the first to be murdered, possibly while she was unaware or maybe sleeping. The children's bodies, the remains of the children were also found in the garden, buried separately from their mother, but clearly under the same terrace. Thomas was the only one buried in a separate location from his siblings and mother. His body was found slightly apart from the others, and the grave was less concealed, indicating that the burial had been done fast. Their bodies had been dismembered and disposed of in a similar manner to Agnes's. Arthur, the oldest son, was reportedly dismembered more thoroughly than the others, which raised questions about Xavier's state of mind and the degree of premeditation involved. So, maybe he started with Arthur after Agnes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can only imagine having to kill your whole family and then dismembering them.
I was going to say, so at this point, literally all signs are pointing towards, you killed your whole family.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. So I'm going to walk you through, since the timeline is not completely accurate because there's so many hours, so many weeks in time in between when, apparently they were killed to when they were found. I'm going to try to give you a timeline of what investigators accurately kind of estimate that the murders took place and all that.
Okay.
So it was in the early April of 2011, and they expect that the murders took place around April 4th to 5th at different times. But here's the breakdown. So morning to early afternoon on April 4th, it's believed that Xavier was very active in his preparations for the murder of his family. He was seen going to various places, including making purchases and running errands. Among the purchases he made were cement, quicklime, and a rifle, a .22 caliber. Now, for all of you who don't know, quicklime is known for its ability to accelerate decomposition. So it's kind of like a powdery substance that you lay above a dead body or something decomposing to kind of help with the smell and all progress, all that.
We used to use it at a Boy Scout camp during the summer.
Oh my God, doing what?
You would toss it in the bathroom because it also helped with, like, my dad would always toss it in there because the lime also, like, absorbs smell.
Right. That's why a lot of people...
So we would toss it in the latrine because it was an outdoor bathroom, and you got to think that thing's heating up during the summer, so it just got rank.
Stop it right there.
I'm sorry,
Cut
but
it out.
I'm just saying. So that's the other thing that it can help is it covers up smells.
Right.
And
imagine
strong smells.
Yeah, imagine if it's a decomposing body. So quicklime. Yeah. So late afternoon of that day, early evening around 5 to 7, at some point in the evening of April 4th, Xavier began his killings. So it's suspected that he shot Agnes first, that she was the most vulnerable. This would have been the point where he began executing the rest of the family. So Agnes was likely shot in the head or the neck, possibly while she was sitting or lying down. There was no indication of her fighting back, suggesting that she was likely taken by surprise. The crime seemed to be carried out in a calm and methodical manner, though. And so the children were also shot in a similar way. Arthur, who was 20, Thomas was 18, Anne 16, and Benoit 13. Were likely killed in their beds while they were asleep, with the weapon being a silenced .22 rifle, which allowed Xavier to carry out the murders quietly and without alarming the neighbors. Now, when I was doing the research, I kept getting some conflicting stories on how Thomas was killed.
Oh.
So I'm just going to explain to you
some of the theories.
Go through it. I'm going to just go through it. Yeah. So Arthur likely spent most of his day at home, perhaps preparing for a move or focusing on his personal matters. There's no indication he had plans outside of the house, so it's believed that he was either asleep or near his room when his father killed him. His body was found buried under the terrace, indicating that he had been killed in his sleep, likely as Xavier moved through the house carrying out the murders one by one. Thomas, the second eldest son, also met the same fate. Thomas was studying music at his college and often returned home for family gatherings. Xavier allegedly called him, asking him to come home urgently. Once Thomas was home, he was killed in a manner similar to his brother and buried in the garden as well. another story I found of Thomas is that Xavier went out to eat with him and then brought him back home and then killed him. So, I mean, both ways.
Either way, it's
horrible.
It's also odd because the way you just explained where they were all buried, the fact that he was the most different in his burial process compared to all the others also leads to...
And even the way he was killed too, it seemed like, to call him to come home to kill him. And then, or the other route, which is they either went out to eat, they were out eating, and then came back home. It's just so...
Also, if he wasn't at home, why'd you have to kill him too?
Right, exactly. Because he literally called him, he lured him home to just murder him.
Let him practice his baritone at school.
So Anne's social media interaction stopped around April 3rd, it seems, so the day before her death, which gives kind of an eerie sense of finality to her last known communications. And it's believed that Anne, like her brothers, was likely asleep when Xavier, her father, killed her. So the night of April 5th, 2011, after murdering his family, Xavier took the necessary steps to conceal the bodies. He dismembered the bodies and began burying them in the garden under the terrace. He used quicklime to accelerate decomposition and mask the smell of decay. The cement was later used to seal the grave and make the family's disappearance appear as if they had simply vanished. So between April 5th and 7th of 2011, Xavier continued to maintain appearances, staying at the family home, taking care of some final logistical arrangements. He even told the neighbors and others that him and the family were going on vacation, which at the time seemed reasonable, given that it was Easter around the corner, a religious holiday for them and so many, and Agnes had also been planning a family outing for them during that time. So really, it wasn't nothing crazy, right?
Yeah.
And this is before he sent out the DEA agent letter, right? So after the police's findings of his family, who he murdered, allegedly, it sparked a manhunt. Xavier went on a journey that would baffle investigators and public for years to come. April 10th of 2011, Xavier was last seen in Nantes, France, where him and his family reside. CCTV footage captured him withdrawing cash from an ATM alone and appearing calm. Now, the next day, April 11th to the 15th, he was seen in various cities across France heading south. CCTV footage from hotels, gas stations, and ATMs provides a trace of his route. And on April 15th, he checked into a budget hotel in Roquebrune-sur-Argens. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, France. A small village near the Mediterranean coast. The final footage of him shows him calmly walking away. This is the footage from the hotel what they have. The final known footage of him shows him calmly walking away from the hotel towards the nearby mountains, carrying a large bag that could have contained survival gear or maybe items to help extend his disappearance. And according to reports from French authorities, since he was seen walking into the Alpes Maritimes region near the French Alps after he left the Puy du Fou theme park, which is where he was, a witness reported seeing him walking towards the mountain in the town. This was days following his disappearance, adding to the mystery of where he was heading and what his intentions were, because the mountain's location further contributed to speculation that he might have been planning to maybe take his own life or disappear into the wilderness. So apparently he was seen a few days later in another nearby town, but nothing concrete, right?
Yeah.
So after this, Xavier pretty much vanished. Despite exhaustive searches and tips, no trace of him have been found. Some theorize that he may have taken his life in the wilderness, like I said, or others suspect that he fled to another country. And so the theories and speculations that people have is that, one, it could have been the financial desperation theory, which Xavier killed his family due to severe financial struggles, included failed businesses and a bunch of debt. His financial desperation may have led him to think that murder was probably the only option, And since he was in so much debt and he couldn't really sustain his lifestyle, his actions might, let me murder my family, might be a good way to resolve this. The second theory would be a psychological breakdown. So, Xavier could have had a mental breakdown, maybe possibly due to stress or a personality disorder. His actions could have been driven by paranoia, delusions. His behavior leading up to the murders was erratic, and the brutal act suggests a break from reality, maybe potentially tied to a mental health issue, right? Okay, so the third theory was he could have killed his family to remove obstacles and disappear, planning to start a new life somewhere else, right? It was believed that he had international contacts and maybe he had resources to escape. I mean, they were on the Mediterranean coast. The DEA. His disappearance without a trace just really suggests that he may have planned to vanish all along, leaving no evidence behind. Another theory was the suicide in the mountains. You know, since he was around all those rugged mountain areas, he made it possible to hike into the mountains and then took his own life. However, there's never been any evidence of a body or any belongings have ever been discovered. He could have also been helped by a secret religious group. Some have linked Xavier to a secretive Catholic group that believes in coming of an apocalypse, which may have influenced his motives. If true, members of the board could have helped him escape, which I think that's a little bit far-fetched, but...
Oh, for sure.
Everything's like... all these theories, who knows, right?
So, I'm looking at the photo of him walking off to the mountain range, and if anyone's ever seen the movie from 1986 Stand By Me, that's literally how this photo, like what vibes this photo gives me. It just looks like a guy's just kind of going on his way, like he's literally just like casually
in the footage you just see him like kind of like walking away, and that's it. He just disappears,
just through a field.
He's like, yeah,
roll the credits.
Murdered.
Like,
well, honestly, that's kind of how this whole story is, because if you think about it, there's still no answers. Nobody knows where he is. To this day, the case of the Dupont de Ligonnès family and Xavier just remains unsolved.
Yeah.
His life and the tragedy of his family have inspired so many books, documentaries, countless theories, clearly, as you saw. It's just a big reminder of the lengths that one might go when you're overwhelmed by despair, guilt, or financial ruin, or honestly maybe all the above. And the Dupont de Ligonnès case just continues to haunt France with no clear answers in sight.
I also, you know, the more as you were like going through that, I immediately started wondering, and I'm like, okay, so here is where I think I'm seeing a reason that he would have called Thomas to come home.
Oh, I love to hear the theories. Why? What are you thinking?
So, kill your whole family, you disappear. You have one family member still alive. Loves his mom, very close to the rest of his siblings, because it
could
sounds
be a revenge
like
story.
It sounds as if they were a very tight-knit family.
Yeah.
So, you figure you probably are planning, the police are eventually going to find this. Even though he's using concrete, they're probably going to eventually find this, which means if you leave one person alive...
Right. There's
and
more.
The police find and they say, hey, everyone but you and your father are in this.
Give us more tips. Like, what's been going on? Has your dad been acting crazy?
Yep.
What's happening?
Next thing you know,
that's a good point.
If I'm the one last existing person in this family,
I
am spending every ounce and resource I can
to
figure out.
That
because you got to think, who knows you the best?
Yeah, no, that's so true.
Your own son.
Yeah.
So then it's also, prime example, no one that knows him well enough can look at this CCTV footage and see him walking off into the mountains and actually know, one, what his mindset was like, who he knew, what things he could have been doing.
And it's funny that you say that, because another somewhat theory that I found was something along the lines that he might have been close with Thomas, and so he brought him home and maybe kind of was like telling him the plan of what was going on, and he just did not want to work, like he didn't want to go with that. Or maybe he killed Agnes first, and so it's like maybe he kills Agnes. I don't know. It's just a theory, doesn't make sense to me. And then maybe Thomas doesn't want her to be a part of it, and so then he ends up killing Thomas. And maybe that, because to me also, like, he was buried in a separate sort of grave.
And from what they were saying, from what you said too, the details of the burial it was very as
shallow.
If it was like rushed.
Yeah. Right.
Which also gives me the vibes of, well, why was his rushed? Why was he called back home?
Right.
And I think, to me, everything else has more of a, hey, there's similarities.
Yeah.
Everything kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But then Thomas is the one loose part to me that I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I'm going, okay, hey, this to me, if detectives and police can dig in more to this, I feel like it might open up other doors.
Well, and that's the thing, like, he scrubbed the house clean, so these are all just what they could figure out from all the hints and tips and tricks that they have up their sleeve.
Scrubbing house clean, this man's definitely been planning this for a while.
Oh, this has to be premeditated. There's no way.
Failed business, but successful murder.
Yeah. I also wonder, I mean, I feel like maybe the theories it all could be all the above. Not all the above, but per se, but
like a mix of each.
A mix of some, because to me, I'm like, how do you get to that point? Mentally, you got to be disturbed. You got to be at this place where you really just think your only option here is to murder your whole family and leave. Also, as if like your family's the reason why you're burdened. Mm-hmm. Like you already carried that burden from your father. So I'm like, not you blaming your freaking future kids and your wife for...
All that was going through his head was, I can't allow this to keep going on for more generations.
I don't know. I just like... And like to kill your family, beautiful kids, beautiful wife. I'm sure it was a beautiful life. Yeah, okay, I get it. The financial ruin must have been horrible. But to do all that, to do the unthinkable and then leave? Like, what's all that for?
Yeah.
For that, you could have just bounced. You see what I mean? Like, you could have just left. Like, if you really didn't want to deal with this financial ruin and maybe just work on yourself and you're like, my God, they're like draining me, whatever the case is, then like just go. Mm-hmm. Because also, he's Catholic, so the unthinkable is the worst sin ever is just to take someone's life, and then you go ahead and you're like, I'm gonna do it anyways, but I'm still gonna head out. You might as well just head out.
It just I'm telling you, it all does not add up. And here's another thing.
Oh God.
Because I'm looking at the terrace, and it's not covered at all. Mm-hmm. If you look in the photo, and on the right side of the photo, you can see the wall dividing their backyard and the neighbors, and right above that wall is a window that looks like it may or may not have like some type of balcony. And I'm telling you, from
but that
that
could
angle,
be from the house.
That's definitely not their house.
You're talking about the left side or the right side?
The right side.
Okay.
That's one of those walls that divide. You know how on townhomes...
I think I see what you're saying, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, there's no accounts that nobody saw anything.
I know.
I would have been covered that. I get
Cheryl
it.
next door that couldn't mind her own business should have been paying attention more.
The day of. She should have been paying attention more on these days. Yes, I agree.
If your name's Cheryl, I'm sorry. Please keep listening. Please. Don't hate me.
But it was just like, and it's funny because when I was reading the part where neighbors were saying that he was acting really bizarre and he would only walk like at night, and I'm like, oh my God, was he a vampire? But it wasn't that. Obviously, I was like, Salem's Law. What's going on?
I was gonna say that would be the part that I would start paying more attention.
Yeah.
The minute that I notice something's off.
But you also don't know. That's why it's hard for me to I know what you mean. Because to me, I'm like, really? He's walking in the middle of the night. What the fuck?
Maybe
like, list it, tic-tac it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm too much of a chismoso.
Where's my cork board with the
with the red string?
With the red string and the thumbtacks,
like we did for Jamie Banks.
Yes, but yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, who would have thought that at the end this fake DEA agent, informant, had to leave to go? You know, you would have never thought that it was. You know, they could have been on vacation at the beginning. It probably could have just been as simple as that.
And even in the photo, honestly, at this point, it just sounds like I'm trying to get you guys to go to our socials. So go to our socials. But in the photo of him on the ATM, even that one, he doesn't even look disturbed.
No, he looks super calm, chill.
Yeah. And he's not even just trying to hide his face or anything, which to me, I'm...
Like, he knows.
That to me gives something mental.
Yeah.
Because think about any killer that wants to get away with it and has bigger plans or whatever, typically is going to avoid cameras, and they go about it in a way that helps them maintain secrecy.
And he's already planned this so meticulously that to me, I'm like, there's no way you didn't plan your getaway.
Yeah.
And clearly you did, but like you said, you're easily fine being on like
Why wouldn't you have gone to the ATM prior?
That's true. Why didn't you? Well, maybe you didn't want to raise flags.
Well, who's going to notice?
No.
Well, it is 2011, so I mean...
But, you know, that's a really great... That's why, to me, also, I kind of feel like maybe he just killed himself. Like, maybe he went into the mountains and he killed himself. But again, there's never been any bodies, any remains. But then I'm also like, the mountains, though, that's a big, big place.
Well, yeah. And did they search all that? Or?
They searched what they could. They didn't find anything. Until this day, nobody still knows anything. Yeah, so that's the case of the Dupont de Ligonnès family and Xavier.
I'm just going to tell you, this is going to lead to me looking up so much about this case.
I can't wait, because now we can watch some more documentaries together.
Wait, is there a documentary on this?
There's several, yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, Netflix actually has an episode on unsolved mysteries about this case that I actually kind of looked up also to help with research.
I think instead we should
JK.
watch this documentary tonight.
Yeah. Well, I lost my train of thought. Well, I felt like past my bedtime. Well, we'll see you next Monday for another sinister, strange, and spooky episode. We hope you really enjoyed it. Until then, stay curious and stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
This episode was created with the help of multiple sources that provided valuable insights into the case of Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès and his family's tragic deaths. Research was gathered from news outlets such as Le Monde, France 24, and The Independent, as well as in-depth documentaries like The Disappearance of Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, investigative books like Mysteries Covering This Case. Information was also drawn from court documents, police reports, and interviews with experts in criminology and psychology that was found online. Special thanks to the countless journalists and investigators who have worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind this chilling mystery. We wouldn't be able to share this story with you guys if it wasn't for them as well.